Wow, a lot of people want me to review Injustice: Gods Among Us. It's been out for a while, but what the heck?
Doing a video game review? Can I be in it?
No.
Why not?
Because the last time we did a video game review, you talked about Resident Evil 6 for 2 minutes.
Oh, come on, that logo looks like a giraffe and you know it.
We were reviewing Mass Effect 3. What is Resident Evil?
That logo is a giraffe. That's all that matters.
People click on a video to watch Mass Effect 3 review and they hear you talking about a giraffe in Resident Evil.
Who cares? Resident Evil 6 is old news. It's garbage. Everyone's talking about Resident Evil Revelations now.
No! Get out!
But why? That's my line anyways.
No, you get out! No, this is my review of Injustice: Gods Among Us! Laser is 'cause I like sci-fi. Do this 'cause I am a rad guy. 99 is 'cause I like Wayne Gretzky. That's why I'm Lazy Dude 99. Laser time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review. Let's talk about movies and comics too. Let's all go on to review. Hey everyone, and welcome to another Laser Dude 99 video. So after NetherRealm Studios made their home run hit with their remake of Mortal Kombat, they decided to use their rights to make a DC fighting game that they got after making the mediocre but okay Mortal Kombat vs. DC universe. And now, thanks to that, we got Injustice: Gods Among Us. I've been requested a whole bunch to do it, so let's take a look.
Where's Krypton, now Metropolis? People you love tend to blow up, don't they?
The story of Injustice isn't one that is exactly new to the comic book reader, but it's not a bad one either. We follow the Justice League as they are plunged into a parallel dimension where Joker has blown up Metropolis and forced Superman to kill his pregnant wife. Because of this, Superman has then killed the Joker, and after that, many of the other superheroes of this world joins him in taking over the world, making Superman a dictator that doesn't allow any resistance, leaving Batman the lone hero in this world, using a dimension transporter to get backup from the regular DC universe to fight their evil Justice League counterparts. As I've said, we have seen this story before. One example that comes to mind is the Justice League episode, The Justice Lords. And in fact, the other dimension was used in Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. However, it is very useful in telling the story in a fighting game, because this way you don't only have the good guys versus the bad guys, you also have the good guys versus the evil versions of themselves. One of my complaints about the Mortal Kombat storyline was that sometimes the characters would fight for no reason. Like, Johnny Cage would hit on Sonya, and she wouldn't like it, so she would try to beat the living snot out of him, and then you would beat the living crap out of her. Some of the fights in that game felt very forced, but in this game there was only a couple times where I felt that they were kind of forced. And even when I did feel that, I felt like they still made sense in the world. The voice acting is pretty good as well. Everyone seems to fit what their character should sound like. There was no voice that I really felt that was out of place. What I was pretty surprised with in this game is that some of the moments outside of gameplay got pretty intense. And the way the game is set up, you really buy that Superman could turn into a powerful dictator. And if you read the comic that sets up this world, that was written by Tom Taylor, you get an even better look in the head of this Superman. These days we are fortunate to get a fighting game that gets a story mode, period. I'm looking at you, Capcom. But it is good to know that there is a story being told, and that it's a pretty good one.
I have returned.
When it comes to the design of this game, it has pros and cons to it. The pros is that every stage looks and feels like that area. When you are fighting in Arkham, you feel like you're fighting in Arkham. Mostly because of the stage transitions, which are some of the most creative stage transitions that you will ever see. One of my most common complaints with fighting games is that sometimes you feel like you're playing in the exact same stage with just different backgrounds, and there's no real difference. Well, with these stage transitions and the interactive backgrounds, this game doesn't have that problem. But I will talk more about those when I get to the gameplay. The clips are not anything special as well as graphics go, however the story makes them fit and makes us take them seriously, especially after the opening scene. For character designs, I like most of them. There are a couple of the regime ones that I really don't like Hawkgirls or Black Adams, but for the most part I like them, and heck, if there was any that I didn't like at all, I would be able to download a different costume for them, because if any of these characters have worn another costume for about 5 seconds in their lifetime, then it's going to be a DLC soon, because they've gotten everything. I do think, though, it's unfair for some of these stages to just be different versions of the same stage. For example, there is Arkham Asylum, and then there's Joker's Asylum, which is essentially the same thing, only Joker's face is painted on the backgrounds in the asylum, and they kind of say, oh, that's a different stage. It doesn't count that way. And there's even one for Wayne Manor in the night and in the day. Those are the same stage. You can't count them as two different stages. In the end, the graphics do their part, but are nothing really to write home about.
Line up, will ya?
But here's the real test, if the gameplay is any good. The first change to those who are used to the Mortal Kombat fighting system will notice that they have gotten rid of the block button and replaced it with pressing back. However, unlike Marvel vs. Capcom, you cannot block while jumping in the air, which makes jumping around a not so great strategy. However, the biggest change to the combat is the health meter. Every other fighting game that I've ever played has the health reset to 100% after each round. This game has 2 health bars. As soon as one runs out for one player, the round stops. However, the other player will still have all the extra health that they had from that round left over and move into the next round. I am conflicted by this, because on the one hand, it is new and adds an added challenge to the game. However, it makes it almost impossible to win after you've had one bad round, because there is no room for error. If you screw up and lose your first bar of health without giving the other guy barely a scratch, then you are basically facing an opponent with 2 health bars. This makes comebacks nearly impossible, and I don't think I would mind so much if I could change it in the option menu. Like maybe if both start to start with 1 health bar, so it's always even, or if there was a classic mode that could make it more normal, but there isn't anything like that. The fighting is fun and frantic. Each character will juggle combos trying to keep the other either in the air or on the ground. However, the thing that changes it up are the interactive stages. Each character reacts differently to different stages. For example, if a character without powers, or at least without super strength, is beside a car, they will jump on the car and try to land behind their opponent, throwing them off. However, if a character that has super strength comes to the car, they will simply pick it up and throw it. This is an interesting feature which adds a lot to the combat, because you always have to be aware of your surroundings as well as who your opponent is at all times. Of course, with any fighting game, there are always some characters that are overpowered. I think if anyone who has played this game online will know what I mean if they have played against Deathstroke. I mean, most of his moves are shooting his gun, so if you are on the other side of the stage, he can take away half of your health before you can even reach him. But of course you can say that with any fighting game. There are always people who will abuse the system to use cheap moves. I just wish they didn't make it so easy for them. Another new feature in the game is that each character have a unique move that they can use with the press of a button. Green Arrow will load a special arrow into his quiver, Nightwing and Wonder Woman will change fighting styles, Batman will get 3 remote bats that he can call to attack, and Superman will get a power-up, and so on and so forth. Now, while it took me a bit to get used to it, it is a welcome change. It makes you feel like these characters more. But what really makes you feel like a hero or villain of the DC Universe is the special moves. They are very similar to the X-ray moves from Mortal Kombat, but are a little bit more elaborate and crazy to the point where it is a little silly. Like, how can Catwoman survive a hit from Superman that puts her in orbit and then slam back to the Earth? The game does go into detail in the story mode that there is a pill that the non-metahumans take to even up the odds. But come on, when Doomsday pounds Green Arrow into the Earth's core and then pounds him right back up, we are expected to buy that he lives? To be fair, the developers were more thinking of what is the coolest move we can make rather than realistic. And I must say that even if it is unrealistic, it's still always a ton of fun to pull off. Same with the stage transitions. They're a lot of fun to pull off, and they're also one of the only ways that you can try to even things up if you are falling behind. For single player, there is also the Star Lab area, which is similar to the MK Challenge Tower, where you get to try your hand at special mini missions for every character. Another new addition to the combat is the Clash, where the two opponents will lunge forward at each other and will either get damage to the other player or some of their health back. And while it is a different part of the combat, I would say it's not that big of a deal, except for the fact that some of the things that these characters say to each other while lunging at each other is pretty funny.
Smile! I am smiling.
The gameplay reminds you of Mortal Kombat, but doesn't rip it off, and is a lot of fun to play, and you get to really feel like you are these heroes and villains.
Time for the grand finale.
Most of my complaints of this game wouldn't exist if they made this game before the MK reboot. Because looking at that game, then at this one, there are so many more options in that game. The first thing you will notice is gone is no tag team mode, which means no arcade co-op and no 4 people playing at once. There is also no random option like test your luck to change up the battle. All of these things could have made the game not only as good as MK, but maybe better. But because they aren't there, the game feels like it is lacking a bit. However, it is still filled with bonus content, and the gameplay is still very fun, and the story is still very good. So in the end, I have to give Injustice Gods Among Us a 7.5 out of 10. And that is all I have to say about Injustice Gods Among Us.
By the way, the graphics are bland in my opinion.
Shut up!
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.